My husband said he had a business trip and dipped out, but his Dumas left his phone at home. At 2 in the morning, that phone started vibrating so hard against the kitchen counter, I thought somebody was knocking at the back door. I answered it half asleep, still wrapped in my bonnet. And before I could even say hello, some woman snapped, "Why you keep lying to your wife again?" I ain't hang up. I just stood there in the dark listening to her breathe. The kitchen light over the stove had been broken for 3 weeks, so the whole room was lit by the microwave clock and the little orange light above the sink. I remember staring at the grease marks on the counter while she waited for my husband to answer. When he didn't, she sighed. Not angry, tired. Then she said, quieter this time, "You really think she don't know?" That part stayed with me. Not because it sounded dramatic, because it sounded familiar. Like this wasn't their first conversation about me. Then the line disconnected. I stood there barefoot on cold tile holding my husband's phone in one hand and my chest in the other. His name is Daryl. And if you looked at our life from outside, you probably wouldn't think nothing was wrong with it. We lived on the south side of Atlanta in a narrow brick duplex with uneven floors and a front porch that leaned a little when it rained hard. Not dangerous leaning, just old house leaning. The kind you learn to ignore after enough years. We've been married almost 5 years. No kids together. That was its own quiet sadness nobody talked about directly anymore. My mama used to ask questions about babies every Thanksgiving until one year I cried in the bathroom while washing dishes. And after that, everybody stopped bringing it up out loud. Daryl already had a daughter from before me, Nia. She was 13 now and spent most weekends with us, unless she had cheer competitions or sleepovers. Me and her got along better after she turned 12. Before that, she treated me polite but distant, like somebody subbing in for her real family. Now she'd sit beside me on the couch sometimes while I braided her hair and tell me little stories about school. Which girls fought, which teachers smelled like cigarettes, who was pretending to have designer shoes. Normal little girl stuff. I held onto those moments harder than I probably should have. I worked overnight intake at a private rehab center about 25 minutes from home. Not the fancy kind celebrities go to. Ours mostly handled working people trying not to lose jobs. Bus drivers, nurses, construction men, women hiding mini bottles in church purses. I checked people in, copied insurance cards, called emergency contacts when folks detoxed too hard. You learn a lot about marriage at places like that. Mostly how people can look completely normal while falling apart quietly. Daryl used to joke that my job made me suspicious of everybody. Maybe it did. But I also knew exhaustion when I saw it. Stress too. And for the last 6 or 7 months, that's what I thought was happening to him. Stress. He drove regional routes for a commercial flooring company, hotels, office buildings, schools. Sometimes he'd leave before sunrise and come home smelling like sawdust and truck stop coffee. Lately, he'd been quieter, though. Not cold exactly, just somewhere else. Like his body got home before the rest of him did. I noticed little things first. Him showering immediately after work, even if he claimed he hadn't done nothing physical that day. Turning his phone face down without realizing it. Laughing at texts while sitting alone outside. Then catching himself. None of it felt big enough to accuse a man over. That's the problem with marriage after 30. Most betrayals don't arrive dramatic. They trickle in mixed with bills and grocery lists and fatigue. Before we go any further, I want to pause for a moment. Please write in the comments where you're watching this from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so this channel can keep growing and bring you even more fascinating stories. Anyway, the night before that phone call, Daryl was standing in the bedroom packing a duffel bag while the local news played low on TV. 3 days? I asked him. Probably two. You said 3 earlier. He zipped the bag without looking at me. Depends how fast they finish the install. I remember watching him fold the same gray hoodie he always traveled with. The sleeves had paint stains near the cuffs from years ago. You got enough undershirts? I asked. He laughed a little. Damn, Denise. I'm not going to war. That should have made me smile. Instead, it irritated me for some reason. Maybe because everything lately felt rehearsed between us. even jokes. Nia had called around 9 that night asking if he could still come to her school breakfast the next week. Wouldn't miss it, he told her. But after he hung up, he rubbed his forehead like somebody exhausted already. You okay? I asked. Just tired. The answer had become his whole personality lately. Tired. The thing is, Black women are taught to respect tired men, especially hardworking ones. You don't complain too much when rent paid on time, when lights stay on, when a man still kisses your forehead before work, even if he don't say much anymore. So I ignored the feeling growing in my stomach. Not because I was stupid, because I was trying to protect what we had. After he left, I cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry, and fell asleep on the couch with some courtroom show playing low. Then came the phone call. Around 7 the next morning, I finally checked the screen properly. 3 missed calls from the same number. No contact name. No voicemail. I told myself not to overreact. Women call married men all the time. Old coworkers, cousins, wrong numbers, bitter exes, people from church needing favors. My own father cheated on my mama enough times for me to know real cheating usually leaves bigger footprints than one phone call. Still, something about the woman's tone bothered me. Not jealous, not emotional, familiar, like she was speaking from inside a routine. Daryl called around noon from another number. Forgot my damn phone, he said immediately. I stayed quiet a second too long. You there? Yeah. You good? Hum. In the background, I heard machinery. Men talking. A beep like forklifts backing up. Real work sounds. That settled me down some. You need me overnight that charger to the hotel? I asked. Nah, I'll survive. Then he laughed softly. Miss me already? That laugh almost fixed everything. Almost. After we hung up, I took his phone off the charger to put it away. That's when another message flashed across the lock screen. Not a name, just a number. Hope your wife believed you this time. I stared at those words so long the screen dimmed black in my hand. Then I did something I still feel ashamed about. I unlocked his phone. The screen lit up like nothing in my life was about to change, even though something already had. At first, everything looked normal. Too normal. Apps lined up the way they always were. Bank, weather, work email. A couple group chats full of jokes I never paid attention to. No warning signs screaming at me. No sudden proof falling into my hands. Just ordinary life sitting inside his phone. I stayed standing at the kitchen counter longer than I needed to. Then I sat down. Slow. Like my body was trying to understand what my mind had already done. My thumb moved first without me deciding where it was going. Messages. That's where I went. The first threads looked harmless. Family group chats. Cousins talking about sports. Random memes. Voice notes nobody bothered to delete. I kept scrolling. Still nothing that looked like anything. That almost made me relax. Almost. Then I saw it. A number. Not saved. No name. Just messages sitting there too consistent to be accidental. You home yet? You eating? Call me when you can. I stared at those lines longer than I should have, because they didn't look like flirting. They looked like routine, like somebody had been checking on him for a long time. I kept scrolling down. Dates lined up neatly. Weeks, months. Same number over and over again. Morning messages. Afternoon messages. Late night messages. Always the same pattern. My hand tightened slightly around the phone. Then I saw something that made me stop completely. You forgot your blue duffel again. I stared at it. Still didn't move. Because Daryl didn't own a blue duffel anymore. I remembered throwing it away myself after it tore during a trip last year. I remembered him saying we could still use it. I remembered telling him no. So seeing that message didn't feel small. It felt wrong. My chest tightened slowly. Not panic. Something heavier. Recognition trying to form before I was ready to accept it. The front door opened behind me. Dee? Patrice. My sister walked in like she always did, keys in hand, grocery bag on her arm, eyes already reading my face before I said anything. She stopped when she saw me. What happened? I unlocked the screen quickly and turned the phone over. Nothing. She didn't even blink. That's not your nothing face. I stayed quiet for a second too long. Then I said it. Daryl forgot his phone. And? And some woman called at 2 in the morning asking why he keeps lying to me. Patrice slowly put the grocery bag down. Her whole posture changed. Not loud, just serious. What kind of lying? She asked. I hesitated, because saying it made it real. About me, I said finally. Patrice didn't react the way I expected. No shock, just stillness. You think he cheating? She asked. No, but even I heard how fast I said it. She heard it too. You went through his phone, she asked. I didn't answer. That was enough. She exhaled slowly. Denise, don't start filling in blanks before you got facts. I'm not filling in anything. You are. That made me quiet, because she wasn't wrong. But I wasn't ready to accept what that meant either. Patrice leaned against the counter. Men act different when they stressed. Doesn't always mean another woman. I wanted to believe her, so I held on to that. Later that day, I went to my mother's apartment like I always do on Fridays. Her building smelled like old cooking and laundry detergent that never fully covered anything. She was sitting in her usual spot watching Court Shows Too Loud. You look tired, she said immediately. Everybody kept saying that now. I'm fine, I said. She hummed like she didn't believe me. I made her food, checked her medicine, listened to her talk about church people and small arguments that meant everything to her. But my mind wasn't there. It kept going back to the same line. You forgot your blue duffel again. I asked her casually, you remember Daryl ever having a blue duffel bag? She paused, mid-bite. Why you asking me that? My stomach dropped slightly. No reason. But she didn't let it go. Her eyes changed. Not accusing. Just careful. I stopped talking after that. That night Daryl called. Same voice. Same tone. Normal. How everything at home? He asked. Fine. You sure? Hum. I listened to him breathe through the phone. There was background noise, work sounds, movement, men talking. It sounded real. That part always made it harder to question him. You at the hotel yet? I asked. Almost. You sound off, he said. I almost laughed, because I didn't know how to explain what off even meant anymore. I'm just tired, I said. He accepted that, like he always did. We hung up. I sat in the kitchen long after, phone face down, still, until it vibrated again. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Not yet. But I knew I would, because now I had already seen enough to know there was no going back to pretending nothing was there. The phone kept vibrating on the counter like it was getting impatient with me. Same unknown number. Same feeling in my chest I couldn't name properly. I finally picked it up. Hello? There was a pause on the other end. Then a woman's voice came through. Calm, not loud, not emotional, just steady. You his wife, right? I didn't answer immediately, because the way she said it sounded like she already knew. Yeah, I said finally. Another pause. Then she exhaled softly. I didn't think I'd have to be the one to call you. That line sat strange in the air. Not dramatic. Just final in a way I didn't understand yet. What do you want? I asked her. A small silence followed. Then she said, I just need to know if he told you the same thing he told me. My grip tightened slightly. What thing? He said y'all weren't really together anymore. I blinked. Once. Then again. Because that didn't match anything I knew. What do you mean not together? I asked. She didn't respond right away. Then I heard something in the background, a soft sound, like a child shifting or crying somewhere far, but close enough to notice. My stomach tightened without me deciding it should. Then she spoke again. He said it was basically over, that y'all just living separate lives. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was wrong. We lived in the same house, ate in the same kitchen, shared the same bills, same bed most nights. Separate lives didn't look like that. What's your name? I asked her. Apaz. Then, Imani. That name didn't mean anything to me yet. But the way she said it felt like she had been sitting in this conversation longer than I had. How long you been talking to him? I asked. She hesitated. About 2 years. The words didn't come with emotion, just fact. 2 years. My mind repeated it again before I could stop it. 2 years. I stayed quiet because I was trying to place it, trying to match it to something I already knew. But nothing lined up clean. Then she added something else. I got a son. That made me straighten slightly without realizing it. What? I got a little boy, she repeated. He's 18 months. 18 months. My mind started doing math I didn't ask it to do. Back when Daryl started changing. Back when he started acting distant. Back when things in our house started feeling slightly off, but never enough to question fully. I didn't say anything. She continued anyway. He told me he couldn't have kids, she said quietly. That sentence didn't land like shock. It landed like contradiction. Something two truths couldn't sit inside at the same time. I stood up slowly. The chair behind me shifted slightly on the floor. Imani went quiet like she was waiting for me to react. But I didn't. Not yet. Because part of me still needed her to be wrong. Does he know about the baby? I asked. A pause. Then, yeah. My throat tightened. So he just never told me? She didn't answer immediately. Then I heard her voice soften a little. I thought y'all were done. That word again. Done. Like there was a version of my life I had not been informed about. Before I could say anything else, I heard movement in the background again. A man's voice this time. Low, not clear, but familiar in tone even if I couldn't place it yet. Imani spoke quickly after that. I gotta go, she said. Wait. But she was already pulling away from the call. Before it ended completely, I heard it again. That small sound. A baby. Closer this time. Real enough that I didn't imagine it. Then the line went dead. I stood in the kitchen holding the phone without moving for a long time. The house didn't feel quiet anymore. It felt like something had been added to it that I couldn't see. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to guess what was happening. I was trying to understand how long it had already been happening without me knowing. I stood there holding the phone long after the call ended. The screen had gone dark again, but the words didn't leave me with it. 2 years. I got a son. He said he couldn't have kids. Those three things kept looping in my head like they were trying to line up into something I could finally understand properly. But nothing lined up clean. The house stayed quiet around me. Too quiet in a way that made every small sound feel louder than it should have been. The refrigerator kicked on. Somewhere outside, a car passed slow. Normal life still moving like nothing had shifted. But everything inside me had. I finally set the phone down on the counter. Not gently, just letting it go like it was heavier than it looked. Then I sat back down at the kitchen table. Same table, same chairs, same space where I'd been telling myself for years that nothing major was wrong, just life being life. My hands were resting on the table when I realized they were shaking a little. Not much, just enough to notice. I tried to think of Daryl's face. Not the version from years ago. The recent one. The tired one. The one that started showing up more often like he was always halfway somewhere else. It didn't feel like anger yet. Not fully. It felt like distance. Like something had already stepped out of place and I was just now seeing the empty space it left behind. The front door opened. I didn't move. Daryl walked in like normal. Keys in one hand. Bag over his shoulder. Same rhythm he always had when coming home from a trip. Hey, he said, like nothing was wrong. like the air in the house hadn't already changed. I didn't answer right away. He looked at me, then at the kitchen counter, then at his phone sitting there. Something in his face shifted slightly. Not panic, just awareness. You went through it, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. I nodded once. That was enough. He exhaled and set his bag down slowly. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us felt heavier than anything that had been said on the phone earlier. Then I asked, "Who is Amani?" He closed his eyes briefly, just for a second, like he already knew this moment existed somewhere ahead of time. Then he said her name again. "Imani," he repeated. I stayed quiet, waiting. He rubbed the back of his neck like he was trying to find the right version of the truth to start with. "I met her through work," he said finally. That wasn't new information. That wasn't the part one needed. I didn't interrupt him. He kept going anyway. "It wasn't supposed to turn into anything," he said. It just did. I looked at him for a long time. Not yelling, not moving, just looking. "2 years?" I asked. He nodded. That one nod carried more weight than anything else he said. "And the baby?" I asked. Another pause. "Longer this time." "Yes," he said. The word didn't come with emotion, just confirmation. Like he was finally admitting something that had already been decided somewhere else a long time ago. My throat tightened slightly. "Why would you tell her you couldn't have kids?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I didn't think it would matter." That sentence hit different, not because it was dramatic, because it was careless. Like truth was something he adjusted depending on who was listening. I looked down at the table for a second, then back at him. "Did you ever plan on telling me?" I asked. He hesitated. That hesitation was enough. "I was going to," he said, but even he didn't sound sure about that. From the hallway, I heard footsteps. Nia. She came into the kitchen holding her phone, slowing down when she saw both of us standing there. The air changed again. She looked between us. "What's going on?" she asked quietly. Neither of us answered right away. Daryl looked at her first, then back at me. And for a second, I saw something in his face I hadn't noticed before. Not guilt, not anger, just exhaustion. Like he had been carrying too many versions of his life for too long and finally ran out of ways to keep them separate. Loretta's words came back to me without her being there. Different conversations. Same story. People already knowing pieces of something I was still trying to understand in real time. Nia stepped back slightly. "Dad," she said. He didn't answer her immediately. And that silence told her more than anything else. I finally spoke, my voice low. "You should have told me," I said. He nodded again. Slow this time. "I know," he said, but it didn't fix anything. It didn't undo anything. It just made everything real in a way that couldn't be reversed anymore. I sat back down at the table slowly, not because I was giving up, but because standing didn't change what was already true. Daryl stayed standing. Nia stayed in the doorway. And the house, the same house that had held years of normal days, didn't feel like it belonged to one story anymore. It felt like it had been holding several at the same time. And I was just finally hearing all of them at once.